If you ask me this question, I probably say it's 50-50 at this stage. Both the teams look good.
Welcome to Straight Bat with Gulf News and Mr. Cricket UAE, that is Anis Sarjan. We are here to discuss the World Test Cricket Championship, which starts in Southampton tomorrow. That's on Friday. Obviously, we of course have to start with the question that who is going to win, and I think that's a fair way to start. Anis, what do you think? Who do you think is a possible winner, or will we have a winner at all?
Hi, beautiful people. Great to be back once again on Straight Bat Show with all of you guys. We've really missed it for a couple of months. But as they say, what better way to start than the World Test Championship finals? And since you've asked straight the question, who's going to win? Well, if anybody can predict a test match win, which is fought in 5 days, and who says, no, this team is going to be winner, he probably knows what's going to happen tomorrow. If you ask me this question, I probably say it's 50-50 at this stage. Both the teams look good. The only advantage New Zealand have, that they have been in England, played 2 test matches. That's a slight edge, but I will not count India out.
Gaurav, what do you think?
Sharma, I'd say that yes, it is 50-50 because, nobody is going to discount New Zealand's chances, especially after the way they literally enjoyed the better part of domination in both the test matches, won the second one, and then again have become our #1 team. Now, I think whatever happens, the first session, I mean, we don't have to be a pundit to say that, but those first 2 hours on Friday are going to be very, very important to set the tone of the test match.
I agree very much with what Anis said, because predicting a test match is not like an ODI series or a T20 match, because the variables are far too many here. And especially in England, where they say that through the day the conditions can change. But what is interesting here is the pitch, because I was having a look at what the experts are saying is see Edge's bowl in Southampton is not a pace-friendly wicket, and it's a slightly spin-friendly wicket. But having said that, you can't discount the conditions in England, which always at any time of the day can help the fast bowlers. So that brings us to the question: what do you think would be the composition of the team? Will they play spinners? Will they go in for a pace attack? And I would give you the first chance to answer that.
Conditions make a big role in how the wicket or probably the bowlers come into play or the batsmen get a chance to bat. Now, you ask me what sort of squad India is going to go. Probably, definitely, I see Ashwin and Jadeja in the fray for 2 reasons. One, not only they can bowl, but they are useful all-rounders, both with the bat, as we saw in Australia, and as well as in the series against England, we saw Ashwin, in fact, scoring 100. So I see India picking both the spinners. When it comes to the pacers, this is where there is a little bit of a debate going on after Bumrah and Shami. Will it be Ishan Sharma or will it be Siraj? Now, there's the debate, because we saw the exuberance of Siraj in the Australian series and the rise of Siraj in the Australian series. But I cannot discount Ishan Sharma just because of his experience and playing in England and having played 100 test matches. And more importantly, because New Zealand has a few left-handers, he has got the better of left-handers. So I would go with Ishan Sharma instead of Siraj. And when it comes to the batters, they pick themselves up, whether it is Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, followed by Cheteshwar Pujara. Then we have the captain King Kohli, Ajinkya Rahane, and the dashing Rishabh Pant.
So actually the batsmen, like you said, pick themselves up. There's no issues there. It is the bowling which is the bowling combination which could change. Having said that, Gaurav, do you agree with Anis here? Because don't you think Siraj would be a handful in English conditions? He all around, isn't it?
Yes. See, not only that. I mean, when they were, if you remember, when they were having the press conference, pre-departure press conference, then Kohli had let the cat out of the bag by talking something about Siraj, that he is going to unleash Siraj in Hindi to Shastri. Now, the way India have picked their squad, one thing I've liked is, because it's the ICC event, you got to name your squad, and the priorities are quite clear. You will see that there is no KL Rahul there in the squad. They have kept Ridhiman Shah in the squad because of a like-for-like replacement situation, if at all it comes. Otherwise, Rishabh is going to play. Now, if they play 5 bowlers, yes, I mean, it's Bumrah, Shami, and I would possibly go with Ishant Sharma because, this Duke ball, as they are saying, that it's got a tendency of doing a bit too much. So experience counts. But I'm not too sure that if they would like to play an extra batsman, I don't want to, with due regards to Hanuma Bihari, I don't want to, see him in this batting lineup just because he can bowl those few overs of off speed. We should get our 2 genuine spinners and go for the 3 fast bowlers. And Ishant will be my choice over Shiraj, to answer your question.
Okay, so which means you both agree on the position. I can't disagree with you, but I would like to see Siraj perform. I strictly speaking, like Anis said, he don't there if you're going to play 2 spinners. And given the nature of the pitch, it is quite likely to play with 2 spinners because they can bat as well. They are good batsmen as well, and not just that, they are genuine spinners as well. But I mean, much as I would like to see Siraj bowl, I don't see a slot for him. Chand, we've seen over the last few years, he's developed into a very good bowler and in fact a very potent bowler, really. So you can't see him being left out in favor of Siraj. So I think all of us pretty much agree on the bowling composition there. Okay, now let's see whether we disagree on the New Zealand part, because New Zealand also has only 1 spinner in the 15, which is Jasprit, the Indian-born Jasprit, the winner. But for all-pace attack, or because they could do if they play Colin Granholm there, then maybe they go for an all-seam attack. But see, from what I can see here is they will definitely play Trent Boult. Then they might definitely play Saudi because would it to be a handful in the match against England. So those 3 pick them up. And then it is Wagner for Jennings, Wagner or J. Kyle Jamieson, one of the 2. So it's a 4 bowling attack, or if 5th option, will they go for the Colin, which means they fast bowler option, which is quite unlikely. If Colin Grano plays, then either Wagner or Jamieson have to sit out. So what do you guys think? Will they just play, or will they go for a all-seam attack? Anis?
Like Sham, you mentioned, they are also spoiled for choices. They also have a terrific seam attack. When you talk about led by Trent Boult, Team Saudi, they have been the star performers throughout the long time for New Zealand. And then Kyle Jamieson has been the star from the last year, who's bowled perfectly well. So I don't see these 3 fast bowlers being left out. When it comes to Neil Wagner, he's the guy who toils hard like Ishant Sharma, who's the man, the go-to man in tough times. So, and the guy who can probably worry players like Virat Kohli and Ajinkya Rahane with that short pitch stuff. He has that awkward angle where he comes and bowls onto the ribs and keeps a backward short leg, as he had done and got rid of Stephen Smith, I remember, of Australia. So I see him playing through. Now, just for variety, I don't think they will rule out Ijaz Patel. They will, leave out the temptation of going with 5 seamers and play the all-rounder in Colin Digram and go for a spinner, left-arm spinner. That is why they have selected in the squad. So they are looking pretty good with this 5 bowlers, including that spinner, which I mentioned, Ijaz Patel. And when it comes to batting, of course, they start with their openers, the newcomer, Devon Conway, who had a magical debut at Lords with a double 100, then an 80 in the second innings. Then Tom Latham, very handy left-hander batsman, very, very capable, followed by their star batsman, Williamson. And then, if I'm not wrong, they have Ross Taylor, Henry Nicholas. And plus BJ Watling. He's a very, very handy batsman.
Watling, yes. I mean, yeah, I would think you're pretty spot on there, because for variety they need a spinner there, because none of the batsmen can bowl a handy few overs like Joe Root. There's nobody who can do that, and I don't think Kane Williamson would even risk it, because given his injuries, I don't think he even try. So, Gautam, any change in your thinking in terms of the squad for New Zealand?
Yeah, I think Anish had been pretty spot on there. One advantage that New Zealand have is, they rely a lot on Colin Grandhomme. I mean, though his test class I would always doubt, but that gives them the option of going for those playing that extra batsman, going for those three fast bowlers and have Patel. Because he's a left-arm spinner. Though they've kept out Santner, who's a better spinner, I would reckon, and as Sham, when he opened the conversation, he had, thrown in an idea about what the Southampton wicket often behaves like. Last time India played a test match there, it was Moeen Ali who did the damage. I mean, not any English fast bowler. So they will definitely play Patel. And I would reckon chances of Grandhomme doing the fifth bowler's job is more. That's what I think.
You're spot on. I would agree there, because for like Anis said, in terms of sheer variety, they need a different attack in a spinner, because otherwise you'll have all bowlers bowling pretty much the same thing. And Grandhomme is not an incisive bowler. But he could be useful in English conditions, because he's a guy who he keeps what you call a dibbly dobbly bowler. He would keep it on a length and expect the conditions to help him to get wickets. But if the all other four bowlers can't get wickets, then how do you expect Grandhomme to take the wickets? Because they have the better arsenal. I pretty much agree with what both of you said. Ajaz Patel will certainly play. Now, to me, what we have been looking at both the attacks. What will decide is how the batsman will perform, because bowling attacks, we know both of them are good. Anis, how do we think the Indian batting will perform? Because traditionally, when we start, we tend to be pretty fragile, at least in the early part of the tours to England. When the moving ball comes, we get used to playing at home, or the we play on the out or the off stump, and also those flicks to mid wicket from the middle and off stump, and here you get plumbed at LBW or caught in the slips and things like that. So will those bad habits come in, and are you worried about that?
Oh, yes, spot on, Sham. You were absolutely mentioned. I remember, like, when Indian team were departing, both Ravi Shastri and Virat Kohli had hinted that they wanted to have a best of three finals, because they know India are poor starters whenever they go abroad, whether it was the last series in Australia where we were bowled out for 36 at Adelaide, or whether it was in England last year where we went on to win the Edgbaston Test in spite of dominating the whole Test match. But they have only one chance, and mind you, New Zealand has been India's nemesis in whenever it comes to ICC titles. Last time round in the 2019 semi-final, that dreadful day, I still can never forget. We were like, it was a walk in the park, we might say, that we are playing New Zealand when the moment it was announced that India not playing England. And then they just upset us. And going back also, I can't remember India beating them except in the 2003 World Cup. They've all had the better of us. Now, as you mentioned about the batting, yes, India will have to be watchful. The guys like Rohit, Sharma, Shubman Gill, even Virat Kohli, because initially when he starts, he's a bit shaky and his off stump will be tested. And New Zealand bowlers will test them by bowling in that right channel, so that they go for that shots and probably nick it. So if Indian batsmen, especially Rohit Sharma, can probably, as Mr. Gautam said, that the first couple of hours will decide if we are put into bat, we can see off that new ball and can make the New Zealand bowlers toil, then India should be in the reckoning. Having said that, it's going to be a test of India's batsmen against New Zealanders bowlers.
Gautam, you said that the first hour is important, especially Anis also emphasized that that opening partnership would be very, very crucial to India's fortunes. But having said that, do you think that we had the best of preparations? Indian batsmen came off the IPL straight away. which is a 2020 tournament, and hardly had any warm-up matches. They all played only between themselves, and the quarantine didn't help either. So was it an ideal preparation, or did the BCCI get anything wrong here?
No, it wasn't the ideal preparation, but there was very little that the BCCI could have done, because if the IPL had run its distance, it would have finished on May 30, and then this team, as scheduled, they traveled on June 2. So that the number of experts that I had an opportunity to speak to, they feel that yes, it's not the right kind of preparation, but they also feel that most of these players, they have played their, they're no strangers to the English conditions. They've either played for India or for India A, but that is something, and match practice is something else. There can be no compromise on that. So looking at it that way, I think it's quite a big test of character for Rohit Sharma. The white ball giant that he is. The last time he was there in England, he had scored 5 centuries, but that was the white ball cricket. So it's going to be really he has to guide the opening partnership, and he will set the tone in this, not only this one, but 6 test matches. So it's a bit of a wait and watch. And that's the advantage the New Zealand duo with what Conway and Young did. I mean, a bit of familiarity, if that brings any advantage, that will certainly rest with the New Zealand openers.
And as you say earlier mentioned that New Zealand had the best preparation. They played 2 matches there. They are acclimatized well. Will you think that would be a deciding factor in this test?
To some extent, yes, Sham, but you know what? On paper, when you look at both the sides, probably India has a little bit of, as you say, that savor, or as they say, the swag, because of the experience what Indian players had. When you talk about King Kohli, okay, you can compare him, his opposite part is Williamson. But when you talk about Rohit Sharma, you're talking about comparing him with Tom Latham or Devin Conway, who just made his debut. Okay, he scored a brilliant double 100. But on paper, when you compare both the sides, whether it is the Pujaras or whether it is the Ajinkya Rahanes and Rishabh Pant, mind you, the way he has come of age in the last 1 year, on paper, our batting order looks stronger. It's just whether India can hold back the drives in the initial phase of the game, and like we discussed just a few minutes ago, can they be very circumspect to the moving ball and give themselves time and keep that play the waiting game rather than playing the attacking game like generally the Virendra Sehwaks or the girls. Especially, I'm worried about the young lad Shubman Gill, because I've seen against in the England in the last series, he was getting set and throwing his wicket away. So if these guys can play according to the situation, when I say according to the situation, because the Duke ball keeps swinging throughout the day. So even if you're set, you make one mistake and you nick it. So there is where the catch comes. So again, to answer your question, I would still back the Indian batsmen probably on paper, and our spinners to probably be better than the English spinners who bowled against them and get the better of them. Especially Ashwin might have the better of the left-handers.
Right.
What do you think?
One point, Sharma, I would like to mention here is, in fact, Anis had been quite spot on there. I mean, we are talking about the top order, but this is the Indian team where, over the period of last 1 year or so, every now and then you had a different guy putting his hand up. So you do not know. I mean, if it's somewhere, if it is 90 for 3, you never know your number 5, number 6, number 7, and having Rishabh there, and then having Ashwin and Jadeja. This makes a lot of difference. If you can show some character and score 300, 325 runs on the board, then it becomes a much more interesting test match.
I'll challenge you on that because I'll use Anis what said earlier, that in terms of preparation, New Zealand has had a far better preparation than India. Not just that, the conditions in New Zealand, the domestic conditions they have, where they play their domestic cricket, is very similar to England. It is biting cold, heavy, chilly winds are there, and the ball moves around somebody like even a Colin Grandham can be a difficult customer there. So in terms of conditions, I think New Zealand batsmen and bowlers are more at home than Indians. Would that be a decisive factor here?
Yes, Sham, you're right that the conditions what they get in New Zealand is quite similar to what they've got in England, and that's why they could easily acclimatize and played out guys like Anderson and Stuart Broad. And it's like out of the 10 days of Test match, they dominated probably 8 days against England. So that is where I wanted to stress on the point that England spinners did not have that edge what Ashwin and Jadeja might probably able to pull out of the bag. And don't forget, Bumrah is still, a handful of a bowler to anybody. And my only problem, if I had a doubt about Indian bowling, is about Mohammad Shami, because he's one of that bowlers, sometimes he goes to sleep, I'm afraid to say. You need to wake him up. Because if he comes and bowls that proper seam, which is known for, to use his seam and his right length, that's my only problem, because Ishant Sharma will be always slogging around and bowling in the right channel. Bumrah, you should be expected to bowl well. The spinners should do well. So if Shami is on song, India will definitely have the upper hand, not only with the bat, but also with the ball. Do you agree, both of you all? I'm not sure about that point which I mentioned about Mohammad Shami.
Yeah, we've seen the time and again, like you said, he's completely out of sorts sometimes, and suddenly comes back and takes a couple of wickets. It's quite unpredictable. As Gautam, what do you think? I mean, we have seen that time and again, isn't it?
Yes, I think the more we discuss about it, we see a case for Siraj possibly, because
Yes.
we won't be going by reputation. Both Shami and Ishant have this capability of getting a kind of reverse swing if that is required. And you've got spinners bowling a decent quarter of overs in Ashwin and Jadeja. So both these two guys can do it. So if you have one of the senior bowlers and if you have Bumrah and Siraj, it may not be a bad idea that way. But I mean, at the end of the day, experience counts. I mean, Shami, when the ball is new, then Shami's seam position has been talked about a lot, and he can really make the ball talk at that point of time. So let's see.
I am glad you guys are coming around to my point. I would actually like to see Siraj there, because if you see, he's a good swing bowler. He's a good swing bowler, and he's proved to be one in Australia and in India. He can get the best of batsmen. So
absolutely,
I would like to see. I would like to see Kohli take a gamble on him. But the thing is, World Test Championship is a one-test match, so will he be brave enough to take that gamble? That is my only worry. Otherwise, I would trump for Siraj ahead of Shami.
No, they will, because Sham, this Kohli Shastri combination, they have done a lot of beyond out of the box things during their tenure. Some have clicked, some hasn't. But this is something which will be a risk worth taking, I think, because Siraj is that kind of a he's a rhythm bowler who suddenly before the lunge, you must have taken through 2 wickets or 3 wickets and changed the complexion of the game. If that happens, from there New Zealand will find it difficult to bounce back.
Okay, that brings us back to Kohli. Kohli the batsman. Kohli the batsman is very integral to India's fortunes. We know Kohli had struggled in the past. It is 2014, if I remember right, and if he came back a couple of years later and he had an excellent series topping the Indian aggregates, and I think he's got at least a couple of centuries and a very decent average too. So, do you expect him to continue that rich vein of form, or will he get back to the 11-footed ways against the moving ball?
I'm glad you asked
what do you
this
think?
question, Sham. We've been all talking about the other players around, but Kohli's form. When you say form in the form of runs, you see the last 100 he scored was against Bangladesh in 2019, October or November, if I'm not wrong. It was in the day-night test match. And after that, Kohli has not scored a single 100. Forget the white ball where he was consistent, but even a lot of test matches which India played. After that, India went to New Zealand where he couldn't score. Then Australia, he had a 1 test. Then against England, he had 4 test matches. So the 50s and 60s have been there. but the daddy hundreds have been missing like he did in 2018 against England. So he is going to be a vital cog. And you're spot on, Sham. If India has to get past New Zealand, he has to score a daddy 100, because the likes of Ajinkya Rahane also has had only 100, that too in Melbourne. So we cannot be wholly and solely depending on Pujaras and Rohit Sharma, and Virat Kohli, as they call him, as the King Kohli, has to score runs. And what better way than to score in a World Cup final? I would call it as a World Cup because it is the World Test Championship final. And to prove to his critics that, no, I am the boss. I'm here as the leader and I will lead from the front.
Gautam, I would reverse the question for you. Let's say Kohli fails in this match. Will the rest of the Indian batsmen have the strength to pull themselves out of the rut?
Why not? I mean, Kohli. One thing. Let me just say that yes. I mean that century came. In fact, it came in Calcutta against Bangladesh, but he hasn't been batting badly. But in the Test match, what he should be, I think either of you spoke about it. In the Test match, he should be more certain about where the off stump is. I mean, it may sound like a temerity for us to say that, but he often has this tendency of just shaping the shot towards the mid wicket and gets scored. So that's the thing he has to be watchful about against this kind of a quality seam and swing attack. And you never know. I mean, that's where it's a very good example is the way the Australia series went. So if Kohli fails, there is no reason to write this team off. And now that again you talk about Kohli failing or 2 or 3 quick wickets going, then I see a case for Hanuma Bihari. But we can go on arguing till the cows come home. Because
Gautam, you don't have that liberty of bringing Hanuma Bihari, because in your team Hanuma Bihari doesn't have a place. So that card is out. So you don't get any pass there.
So no, see, there is no reason why. I mean, that is why you need a good start to start with. I mean, if you lose early wickets, either way the pressure becomes too much. So the opening batters, a lot rests on them. And then if Kohli fails, I mean, India have pulled up. India have pulled themselves out of the rut with the lower order showing character. Now, there again, we don't know what conditions it's going to be like. In Australia and England, the conditions have been a bit like chopping cheese. So that is why this contest has become so intriguing. We cannot, and to start with where we had said that it's a 50-50 thing, and Alex said that. So we'd have to again go back there and see how it pans out, at least on the first 2 days.
Okay, having said that, let's look at New Zealand. New Zealand, we know Kane Williamson has been always the bulwark of or the kingpin or the linchpin of the New Zealand batting. Every time New Zealand scores, their fortunes depend on how Kane Williams form. But the last Test match against England, which they won it without Williamson as well. Alice, how do you think the New Zealand batsmen will shape up against Indian bowlers?
I would again come on to that point about Indian spinners versus New Zealand batsmen. You see, like the guys like Devon Conway, even Kane Williamson has struggled against Ravindra Jadeja. Even Ross Taylor has struggled against Ravindra Jadeja. We agree that the spin will not come into play on the first day, but who knows, with Ashwin getting rid of the left-handers, you get the batsman early. And Kane Williamson's record, for a change, out of all the runs he scored around the world, his record in England has been the poorest, with an average of 30-33, if I'm not wrong. And in the first test against England also, he had failed in both the innings. And the second test, he took a break. So that is one thing which India can take into account. And when you send the captain back into the dressing room, there might be some panic in the New Zealand camp.
I pretty much agree there on the Williamson part of it. But Gautam, to come to you, but that Williamson's absence hasn't in New Zealand. You have Devon Conway stepping up, and so is the left other batsman down the order. And you remember we have battling back in the team. So how do you see them performing against the Indians, especially the spinners, like Anis said? I mean, see, the difference that is the spinners is the key difference here. Against the difference between an Indian attack and an England attack, which they defeated. The crucial difference is the spinners, and India has perhaps two of the best spinners in the world. So how do you expect?
Yes,
How do you see the New Zealand batsmen shape up against?
I think Anis Bhai had given a fair inkling about the way. I mean, with that many left-handers in the New Zealand batting lineup, Ashwin can play a crucial role there, and Jadeja can be as nagging as they come. So the middle order of New Zealand, the spine of New Zealand batting had been overly reliant on Ken Williamson and Ross Taylor. But what has now happened? The openers have done well in the at least in the first Test match, and Latham, being a kind of an underrated guy, but say that he's what Pujara is to the Indian team. And then you've got Watling, who had a double century against England in the most challenging of circumstances. So they also come out of the Uber, but how well they tackle this spin, that's I think is going to make a difference. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, guys, I think we must have covered pretty much everything here. Any final thoughts, Anis?
Well, the final thoughts is that India has to get the monkey off the back. New Zealand, their nemesis, has to be beaten, and it has to be in this World Test Championship finals. And India and Virat Kohli needs a trophy in their cabinet, and no better big trophy than the World Test Championship.
Gautam, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think, I would still say it is a bit of 50-50 situation despite the lack of preparation time, I would keep the edge with India because of the number of interesting options that they have, the kind of battle-hardened side that they have become for the last 2 years. Only thing is, you should get proper action, and rain shouldn't intervene, in these 5 days, because if 2 days are gone due to rains, then you're going to have a joint winners, and that's the last thing you would bargain for in a one-off WTC.
But there's an extra day. They have kept a spare day.
Yeah, but
Yes, extra day. That's why Gautam said if it rained for 2 days, he's 1 day means only you get an extra day.
No, I didn't bargain for the extra day. They've kept 23rd as the extra day.
Yeah, one extra day there. To me, it depends on which team bats better. They will win, because both the bowling, I can see both are evenly matched there. Maybe India might have an edge in terms of the spin variety, but I don't know how much of spin edge we would have in England. But I'm pretty sure who bats first, especially the first innings, the scores would decide the destiny of the first World Test Championship. More importantly, this is far too important in the sense this is the first World Test Championship, and people are going to remember forever. So, which is why I would want India to win here. But in terms of sheer cricketing logic, from my cricketing logic, I see New Zealand has a 10% edge. I would say 60-40, simply because they have acclimatized better, and these are familiar conditions for them, and which is why I gave them a 10% edge. But having said that, I hope the best team wins. So the Test match starts on 18th. So the next 5 days we'll find the first winners of the World Test Championship. Thank you very much, Anis Bhai. Thank you very much, Gautam. All you viewers, please log into gulfnews.com for all the latest updates, cricket updates, and follow our Facebook page as well as Instagram for latest news and updates, please. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Sham. Thank you, Mr. Gautam. Thank you very much. Had a great chat and great to be connecting again.